Howdy, everyone. So we had the pleasure of interviewing Medea Duron today, and she's a marketing strategist and coach with Know Like and Ignite. And we'll go over some questions about relationship development and some of her best tips and practices. So we'll dive right in. Enjoy.
Well, thank you for taking the time to set this up and do this interview. This is fun.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, absolutely. So this shouldn't take the whole 45 minutes. I'm hopefully need to keep this under 2025 so nobody gets too bored. Um,
Right.
yeah, but if you don't mind, we can go ahead and just jump into this if you're cool.
No, I'm fine with that. I am just getting the questions up here. But you're going to ask me, right? I don't have to. We're just going to have a conversation, basically, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, cool.
No, you're totally fine. So the first one is just tell us a little bit more about Know Like and Ignite.
Sure. Know Like and Ignite is a content marketing firm. So everything that we do is content related to reach, engage, and convert.
Okay.
And we focus that really with full service email marketing management services and also social media marketing management services.
Okay.
So that's Know Like and Ignite in a nutshell. We also are the founders of Brand Chat. So Brand Chat is a Twitter chat that's been on Twitter for 8 years now. We have a chat every Wednesday, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock Central Time for the last 8 years, and have been recognized by Social Media Examiner, Mashable, Huffington Post, simply measured as one of the top 10 Twitter chats in the world. So it's really fun to talk with everyone about branding. In fact, we had I would say probably a whole couple of classes from the University of Florida today that were participating in the chat.
Oh, wow. Hell, I'll have to jump on. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool because we talked about PR nightmares this time. So we had talked everything from way back in the day, from the Tylenol disaster to all the way to, of course, United, Adidas, Pepsi.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's fun. So,
yes.
So how did you get involved with all that?
Well, I got involved with it because I live in Little Midland, Texas, which is really a rural area. It's kind of the base of the panhandle. It's not a mecca of traffic or people or even city. So I needed to reach out to be able to get in touch with people and to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And while I could do that live in conferences, of course, when you can do that online, your reach is just so much greater if you're really good at developing relationships. Yeah. So that's what I did. And that's how I started Brand Chat. It started back in 2009. 3 of us chatting together, and it was back then when I first joined Twitter, and I wanted to figure out Twitter. So that's how I figured it out, by chatting with the people saying, let's talk about branding because that's important to all of us on the line.
Oh, nice. So you kind of approached it from the social media aspect. So then that's actually a pretty good question. That if somebody was starting off to try to build this network, so your expertise, I mean, just if they were starting off in general, what would you kind of recommend that they do to start that whole process?
Sure. If you're just starting out, number one, I would take a look at where your online presence, everything from your profiles. Just make sure you have consistent personal branding because that's what people are going to look to first. They're going to search you, and if they see inconsistency, that is what really works as an obstacle against trust. And you want to build and develop trust quickly. In fact, you want to move through that know, like, and trust as fast as possible. And the way to do that is to have constancy in your brand everywhere. And then second is to look at your database because you already know people. Even if you were born yesterday, your parents knew people, We've got connections everywhere, and it doesn't have to be so linear that somebody that was a connection for us, let's say at school, is somebody who, just because we are connected in college doesn't mean that we can't be connected business-wise, friendship-wise, and so many different points of connection. And you do have those connections, but have you kept them current? That's the big thing. Do you know how to contact them? A lot of people, when I start working with them, they have phone numbers from way back in the day, email addresses that don't even exist anymore, and people truly that are on their database that aren't even alive anymore. So it really does mean keeping a good, healthy database to be able to reach out to people because those obstacles of looking for people's correct contact info just slow everything down and make it a chore.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So then, let me ask, what would you say somebody who's already kind of has has a network that's built up. Maybe they're not necessarily looking to start this new career path incidentally or all of a sudden, but they're just kind of in this position where if I got promoted or if I did a new project, that'd be nice, but I'm just kind of looking to maintain.
Right. So if you're looking to maintain, stay in contact with people. We get forgetful. I mean, we do. We're inundated all the time with new connections, new people to friend, to tweet, to snap, to gram with. I mean, there's so many different people that we can connect with that we forget the people that we already have a good relationship with until later when we connect with them. And it happens because you'll see somebody and you'll say you did something and they'll tell you, oh, I do that, or I handle that, or that's my business, or that's my job, and you'll have completely forgotten because you haven't been in contact with them. So find ways to stay in constant contact with people, especially those who you want to stay in relationship with. I mean, there's a saying I tell people that when a relationship ceases to be mutually beneficial to both people involved, somebody leaves. Yeah. And that's true in friendships, in business, in relationships. And so if they don't see a benefit in staying in touch with you, or they don't feel valued, then they won't. So you have to have some sort of system in place so that you can do that, or at least in your mind know who you still want to stay in relationship with and have a way to contact them.
Yeah. So can I ask what's your system to kind of staying on top of all these relationships?
Sure. It's several things, really. I have a spreadsheet or a database. My database is the big one. So I have a CRM where I put notes in, but then I also make sure I take my own notes as well. And I do have a system of making sure that there's certain people. I actually identify 18 different people. I've had my friends, of course. The friends, we stay close in contact on Facebook, on Snapchat, and Instagram. And so I don't even have to reach out to them. Yeah. They see that I'm alive and I'm traveling, and they know I'm okay. I see they're alive, they're having kiddos, they're okay, so we're all good. But then there's also people business-wise that I want to stay connected with. And so I do have a small group that I want to do that with. Mm-hmm. Not saying I wouldn't connect with everyone, but it's hard to manage. I mean, thousands upon thousands of connections. So you have to decide and prioritize. And it can be a database or an Excel spreadsheet. For me, it's a database.
Gotcha. Okay, so that brings up kind of an interesting point. So what, I guess from a business perspective, what percentage of time do you see kind of that you would recommend dedicating towards, kind of maintaining the old as well as kind of looking for the new and, making sure everything else is getting done? Because I know a lot of people can kind of get stuck in this constantly looking for new people kind of phase to try to grow business or whatever and kind of forget about everybody else. So I guess what would you recommend as total time and then kind of the breakdown?
Sure. I mean, you've got to take care of business. So, of course, business has got to be the bulk of what you're doing because the people that you're doing business with already have no like and trust with you. They have a relationship with you. And so it's not as daunting as a lot of people think because we do think in terms, like you were talking about, Lucas, of going out and meeting new people. So you've got to drive or fly out to a conference or, just invest the time to even get to a live location compared to if you start looking at people you already have connection with and who they have influence over. So when I'm looking at making new connections, so I might be taking care of business 7 to 8 hours a day, and then a couple of hours in the day, that's what I'm going to use for connecting with people. Of that couple of hours, I'm going to spend about 80 to 90% with people that I already know. Because we already have a relationship, it doesn't take a bunch of time and connection for me to have to build a relationship with them. Yeah, I can start with them. They have a circle of influence also, and we can start talking. They can introduce me to people. Mm-hmm. When you introduce me to a friend who's a good connection for me, then I come in and I borrow from your credibility. So I don't have to start from square one. And so that saves a lot of time.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. So you spend a couple of hours every day. And of that time, you spend roughly 90% of it with people that you already know.
Yes, absolutely. And it is. It's a couple hours a day. A lot of people will say, Maria, that seems like a lot. And I thought, you know what? I have a lot of connections in everything that I do. My business is 99% by referral. Yep. So everything I do has to be by relationships, and relationships take time. You just can't microwave them, and you have to take care of them. You can't. I wish That's funny. There's nothing worse than coming up to somebody that you haven't seen in a year, and you're asking them for a favor. You feel like a user then, and they feel used.
Yeah. I gotta bake your relationships. I like that. That's funny.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's an interesting one. Then, so I guess then when you're, so you've got all these people, and you're maintaining the relationships with the ones that you already know. You have that know, like, and trust. How do you kind of keep things fresh and wow them? So it's not just kind of the same old like, hey, I'm okay, I'm alive. How's everything? Just kind of how do you keep it fresh? As weird as that sounds.
Right? It's taking notes. It's really listening, Lucas, more than anything else. I think a lot of times, especially because we're all groomed to go out and meet people for the first time, new.
Mm-hmm.
So we're used to, this is. I mean, and I hate the term elevator pitch, but this is our pitch. This is what this is what we do, and we're used to talking about ourselves instead of listening.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're connecting with people you already have a relationship with? You're listening to them, so you're quiet and you're asking questions and you're finding out what's important in their life. What's the big thing happening? And when you do that, then it does keep it fresh, because you can always come back to that point of, how did your kid do at the soccer game? I know it was a big thing that you guys were working on, or how did that interview go?
Yeah.
I know that you were looking at a couple of different things, so you can pick up where you left off. And when you do that, because we do live in such a busy world, people appreciate that when they're remembered, and when what's important to them is remembered. I mean, you stand out head and shoulders above everybody else. One of the things that I do that's really old school, but it's one of the most valuable ways that I stand out with people is if I do meet somebody new, I will send a personal thank you note, handwritten, 3 sentences to them, and they'll always tell me that they haven't received one before. It's the first time in years, and it's a great way to stand out that doesn't cost you a lot of money or time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's so I do a more virtual approach to that. What I'll do is I'll do a 30-second video and I'll upload it to YouTube, and then I'll just send them a link. So
see, that's perfect.
It's not as personal. It's not as personal, but it's trying to keep that personalized element to it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, no. So then here's another one. I guess from your experience, what do you see as kind of the biggest mistake that people make?
The biggest mistake is they spend all their time trying to create new connections. It's always about going out and getting something new. So they go out to networking events, mixers, meetups, anything, conferences, and they're always looking for somebody new to connect with. And I think that's a mistake, because you're wasting a lot of time. Yeah. And you having to develop credibility and relationship with them and just to connect. I think if you think about who you can deepen your relationship with, if you're going to go to an event, why are you going? If you're just going to go to eat food, then it's an expensive meal. If most people go and they just do something I call Lucas grip, grin, and graze, that's all they do at an event. And they have no idea, they didn't go there with a purpose. They didn't mean to meet anybody. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to strike up any conversation. I say go to anything with purpose if you plan for it to be an investment instead of an expense in your time.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. Interesting. Yeah, try to avoid those mistakes as much as possible, right?
Right. You do. I see people get into that where it's just like they're going to every event. You see them at everything. And I ask them, and who did you deepen a relationship with, or what was the purpose of going? And there's no strategy. It's just to go and meet people and hope to meet people.
Yeah, that's kind of where people kind of tend to frown. I don't want to say frown upon, but have a hesitation about going to any of these events anymore, because it's just like, I don't feel like I'm going to meet anybody. I don't want to say genuine. Obviously, everybody's genuine to some extent, but that is actually going to try to deepen that relationship in the long run.
You're exactly right. It almost feels like sometimes people will tell me their feedback is they feel like they've walked into a used car lot, and they're just going to get inundated by everybody, because it's true. People go with flyers and business cards, and I don't know what they're hoping to do other than just, thrust those on everybody or litter the room. And I tell people, why aren't you having conversation? That's what it's about. Relationship building is about conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what would be something that I guess would be the one thing that you would recommend that you could do every day? So let's say I don't have 2 hours every day, unfortunately, to dedicate to relationship building. What would be at least the bare minimum that I could do, kind of the 80-20 rule, to kind of keep that up?
I think bare minimum is keep your database up to date. I mean, make sure you have everybody's contact information. And if you're not sure, ask them, because there's nothing, I mean, I appreciate when somebody reaches out to me and they want to make sure that we stay connected, as opposed to, hey, Maria, I want to reach out to you and I want to sell you something. I mean, that's the last time I want to hear from somebody for the first time in a while. So I would say that, and then figure out ways you can connect with, even if it's just 5 people. Think about 5 people in the last, the 5 people that you want to deepen relationships with, and what could you do for one of them today? So that was each day of the week. I'm sorry?
I said that was 2 things. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, that's 2 things. Well, if your database is up to date, then you're done. Then go on to the next thing.
Well, that's interesting, because you could use that as a simple touch point. It's just, hey, Maria, I was just making sure, is this your email and phone number still? I just want to make sure I've got the right information. That's actually not a bad one at all.
No, I like to do that and say, and I always end the last sentence is everything okay? And is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
And that's it. And they'll let me know everything's okay, what's happening family, or, if there's a challenge or something exciting. They're going to Hawaii. I mean, they'll share whatever, and I learn more about it.
Yeah. Awesome. So then let me ask, from the clients or the people that you've dealt with, do you have any just kind of crazy success stories about something that was just kind of off the walls?
Well, yeah, we one of our clients, actually, we had a chance to work with them in, first of all, making connections like that, because they were brand new in business. They're a startup. We actually connected with a friend of a friend of a friend. So talk about three-way, three away from somebody. But we were able to start working with them, and it was an introduction, and we started working with them like 24 hours later from that. So that's how quickly it was from an introduction compared to if I just called this person up. He's in Los Angeles, by the way, so we're a good distance away from each other. But we connected, and we were able to help his startup business he's actually grown now to be in 3 countries. He just did a little over $3 million in sales, and we built relationships in the UK, Australia, and in Canada for him. So that's how it all started. But it was the introduction of, like I said, a friend of a friend of a friend. You never know who people know or who they influence.
That's crazy. Wow. I would, we haven't had any of those yet, but we have had a lot of good friends that have helped us out and kind of exchange or make introductions for us. So it's been fun. I'm trying to see. Cool. I think that was all of the questions that I had for you, Maria. I'm looking at my little whiteboard that I got up here.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that was everything. So I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of share, impart some final wisdom, maybe tool tip or whatever at the end? I don't know.
Well, I'm anxious to try your application out, of course, because I like to know what it does and see how that it can help in this process. But yeah, I think the biggest tip I have for people is just really slow down and think for a moment about who you want to stay in contact with, and why that would make a difference in your life, either personally or professionally. And I think if you can do that, that's part of targeting and goal setting that will help you be successful at networking, as opposed to just hoping to meet someone. I mean, that's just way too wide a net, and you just don't have the resources, time, and energy to do that.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so I did have one last question.
Sure.
What's a tool then that you use? Obviously not us, because we're just still getting started. But what's a tool that maybe you use that you recommend that other people at least look into, if to try to keep everything up to date?
Okay, for up to date, for my CRM, I use Nimble. I love Nimble because it does bring in everybody's social accounts too, so I can see what they tweeted last or posted on Facebook or LinkedIn. So I like that because I know what's happening in their life. But of course, I can't stop at one because I'm going to give you 2. And I am a huge fan of Twitter. Of course, it asked me in 2009 if I would have liked Twitter, and no, I was trying to dive in and figure it out then. But I like it because when I go to meetups and conferences, I can tweet somebody instantly and say, hey, it was great to meet you. And it doesn't matter if there's 2,000 of us in the room and it was the speaker at the front of the room, I can contact them. Once I do that, I make connection, and then from there we can just start relationship building.
Yeah, and that's definitely the one thing I've seen is that Twitter seems to at least be a very non-intrusive way to kind of say hi, really, is kind of what it is. And they're right here on their phone, so it's not hard to reach them. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have for you, Maria. I appreciate your
Very cool.
time. Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate being asked. I really do.
So that's all the information we have for you today. You can find more about Maria and Know Like Ignite in the description below. If you got any value, please comment and share with others. If you haven't subscribed to get Ryze, you should. Ryze is a personal relationship manager designed to organize and help you follow up with all the people in your life, just like the conversation that we had with Maria. Kind of staying on top of everything can be difficult. But otherwise, have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Bye.